Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition it's Spider-Man 2, brought to us by LJN and Bit Studios. Spider-Man 2, the follow-up to the original Spider-Man on Game Boy, changes up the formula a bit. Instead of a more linear style, here we actually have a little bit of exploring that we have to do, collect a few items, while also dealing with plenty of bad guys and bosses along the way. The game is far from a good one, mostly due to the very awkward control that is Spider-Man's movements, as well as his being able to do the simple actions such as jump or use his web ability. As we begin the game, we get a little bit of story before we're dropped into the first area. We start off inside of this building, and our first task is to head on over and get a crowbar-like weapon. This is going to allow us to take on the Hobgoblin, who's flying overhead, dropping plenty of pumpkin bombs down towards us. Over to the right, you can head inside this building. It's a little bit difficult to go inside buildings. Just keep trying to press up near it, and eventually you'll be able to do so. There's a few little items you can pick up, such as health replenishment, the items that we need for key moments of the game, such as the crowbar that I previously mentioned. You also have extra lives and strength, which is represented by the big weight at the bottom of the screen. We're going to head inside this room and climb on up, grabbing ourselves this key card that we'll need for a little bit later. After exiting, head down into the big gap to the left here that we jumped over at the first pass, and head inside here. You can grab a couple of items, including an extra life, as well as crawl through here in order to grab that crowbar. The way that jumping works in the game is you have to double tap the button as soon as you hit it the first time. So as soon as you jump once, you need to immediately tap it again, or else Spider-Man won't do the double jump. He'll just instead do a jumping kick, or he may end up doing his diagonal web slinging ability. This becomes such a nuisance just trying to get this down that by the time I even got good at the game, I still never felt confident in my jumps at all. Once we have these items, we're going to head on over to the left here where this wall is and climb up this building. Once we make it to the top, you have to latch on to the Hobgoblin. Easier said than done sometimes. Once you do, hang on to him, and eventually his pumpkin glider will crash, and this will allow us to actually fight him. He jumps around, he throws pumpkin bombs all over the place, and you can punch him to knock him back. Sometimes he'll just duck and start throwing pumpkin bombs. Until he stands back up, don't go after him, because he'll just end up ducking and you won't be able to deliver hits to him. Once he's defeated, we grab ourselves a key, and then we're going to head into this building right near where we just fought the Hobgoblin and grab this oil can that's at the top part of the building. Being a little bit difficult, of course, to jump up here, though, because of the bad control. Now we're going to use the Hobgoblin's pumpkin glider here, and we're going to actually fly all the way to the right. It's a little bit of a slow-moving vehicle overall, but this is going to allow us to travel to the next area. For the most part, you can just hold right, but there are a few enemies still scattered around here, including one that may pop out of one of the windows, so keep an eye out on it, but for the most part, you'll just be able to fly on over to the right. Once we finally make it over to the next screen, after that very slow flight, we're now in an industrial type area. Start heading on over to the right and you can jump on up to a couple of platforms and get on top of the rooftops. Keep heading to the right and you have a couple of these like slanted platforms that you'll be able to kind of slide down, or you can double tap the jump button in order to jump your way up. Either way, head on over to the right side. After traveling for a little bit, enter into the building for another cutscene. Once you get done the cutscene, you're going to have these targets start appearing and trying to fire at you. What you need to do is get them to actually activate over these things in the background to blow up these canisters. It's pretty easy to actually do so, but you just got to be careful that you don't end up getting blown up yourself when they end up going off. There's only a total of 4 of them for you to blow up. Here we're going to hit the third one, then drop on down, and then destroy this one right here as the final one. Once we're able to get that one destroyed, you want to head on over to the right side, which I forgot for a moment. But over to the right is where the antidote item that we need to grab is. Go ahead and grab that, and now head out the way we came into this place. Once you're out, immediately head to the right and drop down into the sewer area. The sewers is a little bit of a maze, but it's really not too difficult for us to deal with. Immediately crawl and go through the pipe to the left, and then we're going to head to the right, dropping on down this platform. Don't worry really about getting hit by the bats and the rats during this segment. They won't do a whole lot of damage. In fact, the most damage you're probably going to end up having done to you is by the lizard who's lurking on the bottom floor of the sewer. You can climb all the way up here if you would like to in order to grab yourself an extra life. That's probably the last one I'll end up showing. There's a few more scattered throughout the game, though. Just crawl on over to the right side through these pipes. The lizard's going to keep going back and forth, and he will do a pretty decent amount of damage to you, which is a bit annoying. Once he goes off screen here, we're going to follow him over to the right, in which case we engage in the battle against him. This fight isn't overly too difficult, but you do have to watch out for his jumping attack with his tail. The real reason for it is the hit detection is extremely awful. The hitbox that you can end up getting hit in this game is just atrocious. And because of this, you can end up taking damage when you really shouldn't. For the most part, you want to wait for him to stand up and then deliver either a punch or do your jumping kick towards him. When he does his little tiny leaps and he's kind of crouching, you can still jump and do a jump kick towards him. You'll notice at the bottom part of the screen there is a boss health gauge. It's a little bit difficult to kind of see everything that's going on the very bottom of the screen, but it is there. If you're able to get him on the right side of the screen and get him to stand up here, you can keep landing hits. He won't be able to hurt you a whole lot while standing just directly here, and you can just keep on punching him. Once he's defeated, he'll go back into human form. However, there's no cutscene until you leave the area, which is a little bit weird, but either way, enjoy the cutscene and then we're back in the sewer. Once we get control of Spider-Man again, we're going to head back through the sewer pretty much the way we came in order to get back to the surface. Head all the way over to the left and then climb up the wall, jumping onto this platform and then crawl through the pipe. You'll end up dropping down, but then you want to do another double jump so that you can land on this platform and go back through this pipe. Sometimes getting Spider-Man to do the simplest crawl is really difficult to do. Once you're on the surface level again, head on over to the left. You'll have to go back through a little bit of the industrial area that we traveled through before, but there's another building that we haven't entered yet over to this side. Jump on down to this bottom part here and head on inside this door. Once in here, head on over to the right, watch out for the dripping flames that are everywhere, and make it to the bottom level of this area. Once you're down there, you're going to want to do a couple of swings. This is a little bit difficult because the lava below will instantly kill you if you land in it, making this part a real pain in the butt. Once you're done that part though, go into this room and climb on up the right wall. Jump to the platform where Graviton is, and then start immediately punching him. If you're able to start hitting him before he's able to hit you, you'll negate any of his attacks and easily take him out, being one of the most pathetic bosses ever. Sad though, really, because Graviton is only in this game and a recent mobile game as far as being a villain in any kind of video game. After another cutscene, we're back in the factory. If you want to save a little bit of time, you can just jump into the lava, lose a life, and you'll actually get back to the door that we need to get to, the door that we came in from. So you could do a little bit of a shortcut if you wanted to do that. However, if you're trying to save your lives, try to do the swings back and exit back out of the building itself. Unfortunately, we have to head back into the sewer for another round of climbing through pipes and the like. Head on back over to the right and drop on back down into the sewer and work your way through a similar path that we've taken multiple times at this point. Once you crawl through this pipe here and get to the first opening, you're going to climb up. Do a couple of double jumps and climb on through this pipe in the ceiling. Head to the left if you want to grab some extra health, which I'm a little bit low, so I'll go ahead and grab it, or you can just continue on the path to the right. If you do go left, you'll have to jump down through this pipe again and then climb back up, because it's hard to make that little jump with the ceiling being right there. Do whatever you need to start climbing up this wall, making it to another exit, and you'll be inside the amusement park. Here, Carnage is going to try to attack you, and Carnage is actually one of the only bosses we don't have to defeat in the game. Instead, what you want to do is head on over to the far right. There's a ladder that you can use to climb up, and you actually have to jump up the ladder because you can't climb it. Either way, eventually you're going to see these little cages kind of start going on this track. Attach yourself to the cage and begin one of the most annoying aspects of this game, the roller coaster ride. Basically, you have to move Spider-Man up and down on his web, as well as turn him left and right in order to avoid all of the various platforms and spikes along this thing. It is extremely annoying. It can be very finicky as far as, once again, the hit detection is pretty awful, and I found myself getting knocked off constantly while learning and practicing the game. The worst part about this thing in general, though, is if you get knocked off at any point during it, you have to start it over from the very beginning, which just ends up amplifying why this part is just absolutely annoying as all heck. After what feels like we've spent most of the game doing, we do eventually make it to the top of this roller coaster and can jump off to the left side when it comes to a complete stop. When it does this though, if you do a nicely timed jump, you can actually jump over Carnage, who ends up appearing here, and just ignore him and go on to the next part of the game. Thankfully, we're almost to the end of the game. The next part has us climbing up the Empire State Building. You have to make some pretty precise jumps during this, using a little bit of web swinging action, like right here, in order to get across. You'll also have to shoot your web straight up into the air sometimes and do a double jump off of this while hanging in order to also keep on climbing. Right here is a bit annoying because you have these guys show up and try to fire at you. If they hit you, hug whatever direction you want to like stay on the platform with, so that way when the knockback happens, you don't get knocked back too far. The next part has the giant airship show up, and what you need to do is attach yourself to the airship and then climb up the web inside of the ship where the final battle against Mysterio begins. Mysterio causes multiple clones of himself to appear, eventually causing an earthquake-like move that can damage you if you let Mysterio stay on screen for too long. Your spider sense will go off if he's about to attack. So your goal is just to make sure you're paying attention to wherever Mysterio is spawning and get to him as quick as you can. This is easier said than done though, because of the clunky controls of just trying to either jump down from one ledge back down to the bottom level, or being able to do the precise move that you're trying to do at a given time. The hardest part for sure is just trying to also get back up to the top level. Mysterio can kind of knock you back up to it by giving you a nice little hit while you're climbing upwards, but either way it can sometimes be annoying. Once you're able though to deliver the final hit to Mysterio, you get to sit back and enjoy the brief ending, the Spider-Man 2. And there you go. Amazing Spider-Man 2 for the Nintendo Game Boy. One of those games that I had as a kid but was never able to actually complete, and once I was finally able to do so, I realized it really wasn't worth any of the effort I put into it. But with that, guys, it's going to wrap up this episode of Play It Through. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.